This is a WKYT podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Victor and Andrea. Andrea, how's it going?
It's good. You were just talking to me in this very soothing tone, and for some reason it was making me very anxious.
I was practicing my NPR voice.
Is that your NPR voice?
I don't know. I don't think I have one.
Have you heard of Delilah?
Oh, we've talked about Delilah before.
Oh, yes. And my mom's hatred for Delilah.
Well, the hatred is a strong word, Andrea.
It's not. I don't hate Delilah, but my mother has very strong feelings. I guess hate might be strong, but it's like, you know how some people have that disease where certain sounds just they can't physically handle them?
Mm-hmm.
That's Mom with Delilah's voice.
Wow.
Shelby McCuddy has the same thing with a nail file.
Really?
Yes.
I'm like that with cotton.
Really?
Scrunch cotton together.
Does that even make sound?
I think it's the feeling of it that maybe I don't like.
Maybe.
But there are certain textures that just throw me off.
Yeah, I was filing my nails and Shelby involuntarily tears started running down his face. And I didn't
Well, that's what you get for filing your nails in the newsroom, you gross thing.
How is that gross? Was I supposed to stab someone with it instead?
Yeah,
it was very sharp.
In the bathroom or somewhere. I don't know. I'm just saying this.
I was trying to just get through the day. It was actually on the set, so I have no breaks in the morning at some point.
That's true. I guess you don't really have
any
options for
Yeah.
where else you're going to do it.
But yeah, poor Shelby. I terrorized him.
Poor Shelby. Well, he survived.
Yes.
Andrea, we're branching out today.
I know. This is a good one. I'm excited and a little bit anxious at feedback just because I know people, anytime you mention any political figure, half of the audience will shut down. So I want everyone to go into this with an open mind if you can.
Well, and
we're just going to have some fun.
So we're talking to Mr. Andrew Shaffer today, and I had been Twitter friends with him for a while, but this is my first time meeting him in person. He's an author who lives in Kentucky, and he one of his first books was How to Survive a Sharknado.
Yes.
And
did you read it?
I have not read that one. I do have Hope Never Dies on my shelf at home. It's in the queue. So yes, his most popular series of books features Barack Obama and Joe Biden as crime-fighting detectives once they get out of office.
And it was inspired, of course, by the memes, which we all kind of fell in love with their bromance. And they're just such an odd pairing. Their personalities are very different.
So
Barack is the cool, calm, collected. So you're more Barack. I think I'm more Biden.
Do you think that's
a little bit more high-strung?
I guess I could see that. But one of the things he talks about is that his books, even though they are political figures, the books themselves kind of shy away from politics.
And their fiction.
And their humor. But you still have people who just the names are enough to raise their bristles.
Right.
And so his whole thing is, just try to enjoy the humor in the situation.
Right. And this is a fun conversation. I think he has some really interesting stories. And also, he's hilarious. We get into it a little bit. He studied at Second City, which anybody who knows anything about stand-up comedy and just comedy in general, that is a huge accomplishment. And so many people went there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was fun, and during our discussion about the Backstreet Boys, if I say October, I actually mean September, because I got my concerts confused. He knew, because I was thinking about the Phil Collins concert, and not the Backstreet Boys concert.
You were just overrun with concerts.
Let me tell you, I am a middle-aged woman when it comes to my music choices.
Hey, big spender. You go to all these shows.
Well, I told you, we're spending money on experiences this year instead of things.
Was that your New Year's resolution?
Well, actually, I think pay down our debt was the biggest amount, and we're doing a good job on that. So, knock on wood, things are going well. Got some experiences. We are, much like you, getting things from the library instead of purchasing things.
Oh, heck yeah. There's a lot you can learn from me, honey. But I also spend a lot of money, which it makes no sense.
Well, on the back end, I'll talk with my favorite thing this week. I'll talk a bit about that.
Okay, good.
About choices when it comes to spending money. But yeah, so this is our conversation with Mr. Andrew Shaffer. Outside of the newsroom, we conducted this at Joseph Beth Booksellers, one of my favorite places.
Oh, I love it. It's so calming, nice, unlike your scary voice that you were using at the beginning of this podcast.
Mandy also doesn't like it when I use my slower voice.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page on that.
Yeah, she thinks it's creepy.
Yeah, it is.
All right, cool. Well, I'm glad we've established that. Everybody, here's our conversation with Andrew Shaffer. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We're here with Andrew Shaffer. He's very excited. We were just talking about some podcasting stuff as far as peak podcast. Is that where we're at, Andrea?
Peak saturation. Everybody has a podcast, and so do we. So we got in right at the right time.
You got in under the wire.
Right under the wire. You're right. We've been doing this for a while.
You're right, yeah. We're still building
We're
an
old
audience.
pros.
That's what I keep telling myself.
Yes. All right, this is an exciting podcast. It's rare that we interview someone kind of outside the news world, which you kind of cover, flirt with that line a little bit. So let's just talk about, if you're describing your career so far, what do you say to people about your work?
Well, the first thing I don't say to them is that I'm an author, because then they say, I've got a great idea I've been working on. What if I tell it to you and then we go 50-50 on the book? You write it and I'll just give you the idea. And so first off, I try to avoid that. But when I tell people what I do, I say I write humor books. And the past couple of books that I've done, though, have had a political edge to them. And so it's kind of led to some weird situations where I've had people say, what are your thoughts on, Joe Biden's chances? Or what are your thoughts on the debates or this? And I'm like, why would you ask me? I make stuff up. In my books, Joe Biden and Barack Obama are crime solvers. Why do you think that I would have anything important to say on this topic?
But he basically legitimized your book.
I know. He
and so did his wife.
Yeah. They are aware of the book, and he told me great job, even though he hadn't read it, which is fine. As long as it was just an honor to be recognized.
So let's go back to how this started. I guess we were talking earlier. You said you've seen a lot of the Obama and Biden memes, and that you started kind of thinking about kind of the fantasy world they may live in, where these memes are a lot more accurate.
Yeah, and I think your podcast audience is very sophisticated, so I don't have to describe what a meme is. They're able to download a podcast. They know what a meme is. But one of the great things that was happening around that time, it was right when they were leaving office, everyone was talking about Joe Biden and Barack Obama, and they were going, oh my gosh, we don't know what we had for 8 years here. It was this great friendship, and we kind of soured on it as a country, or we kind of overlooked it. And so one of the great things was everybody started to come out and celebrate that, but it was in the form of memes, and it was just regular people on the internet, just sort of, I call it like culture bubbling up from the bottom. And every once in a while, something comes up like that where it just catches everyone off guard. And that caught, me off guard. But I said immediately, I go, what if I want to turn that into a book somehow? And the way to turn it into a book was to go back to the original bromance in literature, which I think is Sherlock and Watson, and sort of use that dynamic together to have them solve crimes, and because that's what best friends do. It's also what the buddy cop genre is, with Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2 and Lethal Weapon 3 and Lethal Weapon 4.
Last Boy Scout.
Now,
I'm just thinking of Buddy Cop.
In your first book, Hope Never Dies, I think most people wouldn't guess that Biden is actually Sherlock, kind of, right? If we're going by that. He's kind of the lead investigator.
Well, so the way it works in the books is I go by who's the narrator. So in the Sherlock stories, the narrator was Watson.
Gotcha.
So that's, you can look at who the protagonist is, and definitely in the stories, the protagonist drives the story here, which is Biden. But where I think about it what their point of view is, and so it was hard for me to get into Barack Obama's head. You want to imagine he's this super genius, kind of like Sherlock's a super sleuth. You don't want to imagine he's just a regular dude in there. So I wanted to keep it sort of mysterious. That's the Sherlock comparison that I would personally make with them. But yeah, Biden does take the lead, though, in the cases.
What did you think whenever you started seeing just how popular that first book got?
I was just shocked. It was not expected. And my publisher said, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." And I said, "You didn't expect this? Come on, someone had to expect this." I know. Thank you for holding on to that and not telling me that. It looked like a joke, and I mentioned this before, but it looked like a joke to even my Facebook friends who would say, like, "Oh, it's a hilarious cover. You should write that book." And I said, well, I did, actually. Why would I pay someone to do a cover like this? Beautiful painted covers, photorealistic paintings. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have, no, it's a real book. So I think they've thought that with a lot of my other books as well. I wrote a book, How to Survive a Sharknado, and some friends, very good friends, are like, hilarious, Shaffer.
You should write that.
You should write that. Yeah, and I'm like, and I even posted a picture with Ian Ziering from Sharknado with a copy of it, and they said, wow, great Photoshop. It looks like he's holding that.
Oh my God.
I said,
honey, you need new friends.
I know, or they just need to believe me.
There you go.
You need friends who believe in you.
I need friends that believe me.
How often have you talked to somebody who maybe bought the book as a joke because they thought it was funny, but then they end up reading it, really enjoying it, and suddenly they're like, hey, I want more of this?
All the time, which is an interesting thing, because if you sell a book that's a joke, oftentimes people don't want another one. They're like, I get the joke. With this one, though, there's an actual murder mystery. There's an actual crime to be solved, and so they solve a different crime in the second book. It goes in a different direction, and people have really latched on to that aspect of it, and they say, we want to spend more time with them, and we want to go on other cases with them. I've written books in the past, How to Survive a Sharknado, in fact. No one said, give me another book. I want to know more Sharknado survival tips. I was like, well, I don't know.
So when the memes were at peak saturation, we'll stick with that theme. I remember my co-anchor is actually our political reporter, kind of our political expert. And I looked over to him and I was like, so if Biden were to run, could Barack be his vice president? And I think he said that there's some loophole where that's possible. But I think you're right. Like, so many people just really loved that relationship. But what did you see in it?
I just saw that they were having fun. And the thing that a lot of people don't remember is that they started off just hating each other.
Right. They ran against each other.
In the Senate, even, they would, Joe would be droning on. He would just go on, and Barack would be sitting there like passing notes to his aides, being like, "Get me out of here! This is ridiculous. Shut this guy up." So they did not like each other. They had very, very different politics, and especially on the first day that Joe Biden became the running mate, he said something terribly offensive, a little bit racially charged, and it was just like, oh, this is not going to last. And the fact that they became good friends over the years, and their kids became friends, and their grandkids, or Biden's grandkids with Obama's kids, it was just amazing that they sort of came together and became friends. And I said, that's something that's missing in politics, is people who disagree. Like right now, if you look at the Democratic field, it's like that person wants Medicare for all, and that person wants Medicare for everyone except for 10 people. I hate them. It's like, well, wait a minute, you guys basically agree on it though? No,
they're
we hate
ready
each other.
to tear each other apart.
They're not allowed to do that.
I know.
That's not allowed.
So,
what's it like writing characters who are still in the public eye and doing stuff? I mean, you might be in the middle of a story and suddenly Biden does something that gets a lot of attention. Do you have to weave that in? Or?
You think Biden would do that? That doesn't sound like Joe Biden. I knew with the last book, I knew they weren't going to step out or do anything pretty much until the book came out. And in fact, a week after the last book came out, they stepped out together and had a sandwich together, and it kind of broke the internet. So I think that, that maybe the book brought them back together in a way. They were like, hey, man, we don't talk like we used to talk, It's been a while.
So tell us about the interaction. You said that Biden, how do you know he's at least aware of the book?
Yeah, his people got a hold of me, and they said, he's coming through Kentucky. He wants to talk to you. And we sat in the front row at one of his rallies, and next to us was, I think, Steve Beshear and another Democratic governor from Kentucky, I forget. And people, they were like waving to people the whole time, and we were sitting in the front row, and I started to like wave to people, and my wife is like, stop it, you're going to embarrass us. And I was like, it's already embarrassing. We're already sitting in the front row. People are going, who are they? And it was further embarrassing. They said, as soon as Joe's done talking on stage, he's going to come down and he's going to talk right to you. Not Steve Beshear. He's going to talk to you. And I said, okay. It sounded like he was, I don't know if he was mad.
It's almost like the principal was showing up.
I know. It was like, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble. You're sitting in the front row, and you're going to wait there until I'm done, and then I'm going to talk to you, and then we're, And he came right up to me, and he said, you wrote that book about me. And I said, yeah. And he goes, great job. I love it. And it was just this amazing moment. And I said, oh, just this relief. And I said, oh, I'm so glad that you read it and loved it. He goes, no, I didn't read it, but I loved it.
He loved the cover.
He
just
loves
like
the
your friends.
cover. And I'm like, yeah, I totally painted that cover myself. Yeah,
just the idea of it is good enough for him.
He signed the book to me, and what's really strange is he actually signed it just Joe. He usually signs his full name and stuff that he signs, but for my book, I knew how close we were when he just signed it Joe, and then or maybe that was just his way of doing plausible deniability in case someone he goes, that's not my signature. You can tell. I never do that.
Is it, I guess, you were also telling me that sometimes other people have him sign your book?
Yeah, people I didn't pay them to bring the book up to him, but people were bringing the book up to him at the rally saying, would you sign this? And he's just signing everything left and right. And so I think that's how he heard about the book. And then someone gave him like an Obama doll, and he signed that. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You'll sign anything. And they're like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, though, I've heard, will only sign his own books that he's written. He's like, I'm an author, and as part of the author's code, I will only sign my own books. And I said, there's no author's code. I'll sign anything.
Sign whatever you want.
I was going to say, had you not been made aware?
Back, because this isn't your only political book. There was actually one before this.
Yeah,
about our current president. You kind of almost predicted the future.
Yeah. So early in 2016, I wrote a book called Day of the Donald. Is a satire about what would happen if Donald Trump became president. I started writing it. He was like at 1% in the polls or something. He shot up, and then my book came out, and suddenly, in July of that year, and suddenly he was the nominee, and nobody wanted to read the book because it's happening right before your eyes. You just don't, especially people on the left were like, we don't want to jinx it.
I was going to say, you think like people on the left were, they were afraid, and people on the right probably felt they were like, oh, well, you're making fun of somebody who we're supporting and we don't want to.
Yeah. And the other thing that was weird was that publisher, at the time they said, we want you to play this straight down the middle, okay, in your interviews and stuff. We don't want you to come down that the book's on one side or the other of Trump. And I said, who is that play to? Because immediately it was like, oh, we're in a different era. Like, people either hated him or loved him. There was no like, oh, I think he's kind of okay. I have to see what his views. No, there was no down the middle at all. It was just one or the other. And so I came out in my interviews, and they're like, is this anti-Trump or pro-Trump? And I'm like, it's kind of like just like he's got a weird haircut. Trump. I don't know what.
Have you thought about re-releasing it at this point? Because in a way, it's almost like it's more relevant now because you compare it to what has happened.
Yeah. I've thought about that, but it's almost like throwing good money after bad.
At this point, it's like, well, the Obama-Biden books are doing well.
I know. At this point, there's so many things that sort of came true. I say, like he calls the Prince of Wales, WHALES. So I felt it skirts a little too close to reality now. So if you read it now, you go, "Oh, well, this sounds like a nonfiction book here." There's nothing. The only, I think, the great thing in the book that happens, I think we have Ted Cruz is framed as the Zodiac killer, which again is
another meme,
another internet meme. And it's one that, in fact, I think Ted Cruz celebrated that this year.
Ted Cruz did make fun of it. Yeah,
on Twitter.
He
embraced it. So that was the only thing. But I had Ted Cruz looking awesome in this book. So I'm just surprised that, that nothing I wrote about Ted Cruz has come true. He hasn't gotten jacked up. He hasn't gone to prison. He hasn't. None of that.
Well, I know a lot of late night hosts were saying, everybody thought that it was going to be like just, fish in a barrel as far as the jokes, but it's almost like it's hard to sometimes to make something that's already funnier.
Oh yeah, you can't satirize something that's funny. If it'd be like I'm going to write a satire of a parody of the movie There's Something About Mary. You can't do it because it's already a funny thing. Mm-hmm. I guess you could do it by turning it into a dark thriller, and I think I've seen a video again on the internet of turning that movie into like a stalker thriller or something. But yeah, you don't know. You can't. It's really hard to satirize Donald Trump or basically anyone at this point. So
I was going to say, because everybody, it seems like, is so It's like everybody's kind of forgot about the middle at this point, and it's like everybody is so entrenched on what they're doing that they, trying to satirize that seems pretty difficult.
And it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm kind of in a weird place myself. I try not to come out at my events and go, hey, I'm totally for, this is all about Joe Biden because I'm honest. I'm like, I think there's a lot of good candidates on one side, and we'll wait and see what happens, but I don't want to push people one way or the other, because then you might push some of your readers away, just being honest. So, but I'm from Iowa, and I think Kentucky's a little bit of the same way, where it's this Midwestern, like we're not going to talk about our politics unless you get really in our face about it. And so, growing up, I didn't have any idea who anyone's politics were, including, I think, my own parents. I'd be like, who'd you vote for? And they'll be like, that's between me and the ballot box.
Wow.
And
my dad used to let me press the buttons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Which probably, if that's illegal.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do that.
I think
yet.
the statute of limitations has gone away.
You're right.
On that. But yeah, it was just a different environment, and now it's like everybody's like out there with their politics, and so it does put me in kind of a strange place sometimes, where I'm like, I'm kind of not out there with my politics all the time. So. But
even just the nature of the books, that there are some people who just aren't even going to give them a chance.
Oh yeah, and I think they wouldn't give them a chance anyway. There's enough of an audience out there for the books that they're doing well. So
but that's
I don't worry about it.
There's a game designer I like a lot, and he talks about if you design something that is universally liked, it's not really going to do that well. But if you do something that some people love, some people hate, that's where you find your successes, because the people who love it are really going to be all there for it.
On at least one side.
Yeah, it's really strange. I think one of the top selling books right now is some book about crawdads or something.
The crawdads sing, is that the one?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's like, I don't know what it's about. Probably not any crawdads in it, but it looks from the cover and from people's describing it to me like kind of a bland book almost. But it appeals to everyone, and it's like number one on the charts. But I've asked people, I said, like, have you bought it? Yeah, have you read it? Oh, no, it's sitting on my nightstand. I'm like, what's it about? And they're like, I don't know, but it's number one, so it has to be good.
I was told I need to purchase it.
I was told that I need to purchase this. And I said, well, and it may be a great book. I have no idea. But I think I'm just like, well, yeah, if you do appeal to everyone, you're actually going to appeal to no one that strongly.
I have a confession. I did this with music because I remember this guy I had like the biggest crush on looked at my iPod. Like he just grabbed it from me in college because I'm a loser. And literally he made fun of my music choices. So from there on out, like I would just get music because I thought it would be cool.
You said, that's it, I'm into grunge, and just started.
No, I mean, yes, basically yes. It's like I lost all identity.
You went and downloaded all the three doors down Boys. You could, and next thing you know.
Yeah, but I mean, people do that. That's true.
Yeah, wait, so you replaced the Backstreet Boys on there?
Well, I just added to my collection.
I
didn't have the heart to replace them.
You can't replace them because...
Oh, we're going to the concert. We already
both
have.
bought
I'm going to the concert too.
Yeah, all right, cool. We'll be there. We'll see you.
Louisville.
One in Louisville. It's in Louisville.
It's
it is? Dang, I got to figure
KFC
these
Yum
things
Center.
out,
Yeah, you're coming with...
So it takes me where I need to go.
It's me and my wife, and then Andrea and her... At that point, it may be her mom. It may be a date. We're not sure. It depends on which podcast you listen to, whether or not Andrea has a boyfriend.
No,
it's rare.
The Backstreet Boys. Oh my God, I've seen them in concert so many times.
I've only seen them once. But
every time I go, someone will post, like my wife will post a picture, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's so great that your husband is going with you to that and taking you, so supportive." And she's like, "No, I'm going because he makes me go because he doesn't want to go alone and be."
That is exactly what happened. I told some friends, I was like, yep, we got Backstreet Boys tickets. And they're like, oh, she's making you go, huh? I was like, no, I'm making her go.
Think about all the hits. I mean, it's just one after another. It's like seeing Tom Petty in concert. I swear. It's just hit after hit after hit.
They're kind of Kentucky royalty because, two of them are from here. Yeah, one's from Lexington, one's from Irvin.
Okay, yeah. They're...
All right.
Estill County.
We've gone off on a tangent.
I don't think so. This is a Backstreet Boys podcast.
That's
now.
right.
It could be.
We should get one of them on here.
It's just turned into a different.
Does this happen when you're being interviewed on NPR?
You get a lot of Backstreet Boys talk.
When no. When I was on NPR, what's the best part about being on NPR is when they do the NPR voice. So they'd be like talking like normal. They'd be like, okay, so we're gonna go live here in 3, 2, 1. Hello. I'm here with Andrew Shaffer. It's just like so different.
It's like, you're a different person.
Like, what happened to that person I was just talking to? And then they wrap up and they're like, okay, that was good.
Which is kind of the opposite of us weird. Because we talk like this, and then we get into our news voices, and they're bigger, and they're.
Podcast is much more laid back, which I think is what they want. Okay, back to the book. Anyway,
well,
I need to know. I want to know reaction, like best reactions from both sides, like the best hate reaction and the best love reaction you've gotten from these books. Are we allowed to say?
Yeah, no. The best hate reaction, I think there are a lot of writers who say, "Oh, I don't read my bad reviews because I don't want to read them." And I say, "Well, if you're a chef, would you not want to read your Yelp reviews, even if they're complete bull, because you want to know, if you're making the customers sick?"
And
right?
for somebody who might be interested, and it was just one, sometimes people have relevant complaints.
Yeah, sometimes they have relevant complaints. I'll say this: someone came up to me recently and said, "You know what? I love the second book. It's so much better than the first book." And I said, okay, that's good. Then they kept going. They go, yeah, there's not that whole part in the middle where it's kind of dragging and it's kind of nothing happening. And, that whole thing, you got rid of that in the new book. It's just perfect. It's perfect. And I'm not going to lie, the response across the board has been that the new book is better and I'm like, I know what chapter you're talking about, but when you're writing a book, and the publisher says we need 70,000 words, and you've only got 65. Where are you going to put 5,000 extra words? You're going to put them in the beginning? No. You're going to put them at the end? No. You're just going to bury them in the middle. Yep. And so, there's a part where they're just driving around a parking garage in circles for an hour. What am I? That's just
Seinfeld.
Exactly. Exactly. All of a sudden, it turns. Really, the situations they get into in some of the books are very Seinfeld-like, and it was just like. Yeah, so I don't. So I do hear complaints about the books, and I take that to heart. Like I said, for the new one, I was like, I'm gonna fight back. I'm gonna cut out those 5,000 words in the middle that I don't want. I'm not gonna put them in there. And the publisher's like, yeah, we heard those complaints too. Let's just keep them out.
So this one obviously comes out before the next election, but I guess. I'm going to guess there may be a third, plans for a third. Is there?
Right now, I don't know which way
That's
Joe
my question.
Biden's
how do you
leaning.
plan? Yeah, how do you
plan
that?
And so I can't really write a book with Joe Biden as the. It would come out next July if I wrote one. And already it's just like he could either be on the cusp of the nomination at the top of his game, or he could be at home watching watching Cheers or something.
Which would be two very different places for a character.
Which is two very different places. And when I write, I don't go off just the plot. I go off the emotional situation. Because if you read these books, they're very emotional. Joe Biden is wrestling with questions about how he is, what is his legacy? Is he too old to run again? There's these questions. And will Barack be my friend again, or are we done? Was he just a work wife? So you have these tough questions, and it's very emotional.
I'm so here for it.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just going to say, does it get tough sometimes? Like, are the lines blurred between what's real and what's not in your head? Because you've created this fully developed character in your head of who Joe Biden is, who Barack Obama is.
Not in my head, but I did hear about a reader that had dementia that read the book, and she is like, they are such great crime fighters. I'm definitely voting for Joe Biden this time around. And no matter how many times her family tells her that this was a fictional book, it's embedded in her mind that the events happened. And so I would say I have a better grip on reality than that. Sometimes it gets a little loose, but
at the same time, somebody who's read these, suddenly they have these ideas of these people that they may overlap with who they...
Well, I'll say that when you saw Joe Biden on stage, people said he looks old, and if you read my book, I portray him as very old because he is old. I don't know there's no nice way to say that or a bad way. It just is who he is. He can't de-age himself or something. Bernie is older. There are certainly older politicians out there, so it's not
a bad thing in our culture. Not
I know,
only, but it's like in other cultures, that's like respected, revered. Like these are
celebrated.
Yeah, exactly. But we're just like, oh no.
Yeah,
put them in a closet.
And in fact, I mean, there are certain cultures in the U.S. even who people have come up to me and said that's just wrong for people to get on him because he's old. I mean, he wasn't doing that moving your mouth thing that old folks sometimes do, mushing his teeth and grinding on his tongue, or he didn't come up there in a walker. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm like, if you thought he was old. I saw an older guy the very next day after the debates driving a car and just stare at me like I was an idiot, and he's the one who cut me off, And I'm like, having an old president is not the worst thing in the world, because what's the first thing they do? Secret Service takes their keys away. So
you don't have to worry about him driving.
So this is not.
You're welcome, family.
This is
That's
not.
never a fun thing to do.
If you want the keys taken away from someone, and it's kind of a rough deal. We've all had family members like that, and it's just a tough situation. Urge them. We need more old people. Yeah, we need more old people to run for president.
Just get them elected, and next thing you know,
just get them in office, and boom, they're done.
So what was the as far as promotions? Like, these books have really done well. I mean, you're a New York Times bestseller. Like, where did they go? Like, what kind of events did they pitch these books at? How did they take off?
Well, there was a couple of stories early on, New York Times, Washington Post, and it also got pitched along with Bill Clinton and James Patterson wrote a presidential book together, a thriller. So it was like the year of the presidential thriller. And I mean, I'm the only one that came back with a sequel this year. I don't know what Bill Clinton's been doing for the past year.
Also, so many of these books are so serious. I was just over there at the political section, and you look and you just see all these. It's a lot of angry faces, and yours obviously a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Do you think a sense of humor would help us? I mean, honestly, it's like we say, we hate each other, it seems like, in politics so much. It's like, just learn to laugh a little.
I think laughing at yourself, laughing at is really important. And I think that's the one time during the Trump presidency that I kind of felt everybody come together was when he tweeted Kofifi. Whatever that word was, Covfefe. No one knows what word he was trying to tweet, but then he was like, I'll tell you what it means later. And I think like everyone was like, oh my gosh, that is like the fun Trump presidency. That's what I kind of want. If I was going to have a reality television show host as president, I wanted it to be just misspellings all the time and whoops, just a laugh track. Just a laugh track the whole time. And and instead it's been a little bit more serious than that. But I thought, I just thought that if you're able to laugh about stuff, it immediately diffuses a lot of tension in the room. And that's just what's obviously missing from politics. And I saw Joe Biden up there on the stage, on the debate stage. He didn't crack a single joke. There was one point where he kind of smiled, but it was like I can't believe you said that to me. There was the passing the torch comment, and he's like, I'm going to get you.
Nobody likes creepy Uncle Joe. Everybody likes fun Uncle Joe.
I know. Everybody likes fun Uncle Joe. And I'm like, if you get up there and tell some jokes. So I've been telling like some Joe Biden so old jokes that I think would really help him if he just got up there on the debate stage and repeated them. Like
owned it himself.
Yeah, like Joe Biden is so old that he knew the Golden Girls when they were just girls. Or Joe Biden is so old that he flew for the... Wait, no. What? That's actually part of the joke. Sorry, that's part of the joke. He just trails off.
Just tell it like that?
No. I read that you studied comedy writing at Second City, which I mean, for anybody who loves comedy, that's the gold standard. What was that like?
Yeah, it was great. I drove back and forth like every Sunday for like 6 months, going to and from comedy classes there from Iowa, and it's a 4-hour drive each way. So it was rough, but it was so worth it. I just learned so much, and then it came to a point where I was just like, I can't drive 8 hours every Sunday, and I opted out at that point. But it really helped you learn that anybody can be funny. You don't have to be a comedian. These can be trained. And I say the same thing about writing. Anybody can write. You just have to put a lot of time into it. That's all it is.
I was going to say, can that be taught? But you say it can.
It can, but it takes so long.
Right.
What I'll have oftentimes is someone come up to me. I do a mentoring program through Carnegie here in Lexington, and I'll often have people come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, I've just retired from my job and I want to write a book and I need some help with it." And I'll say, "Well, if you want to get good at it, you have to spend 10,000 hours writing." It's a Malcolm Gladwell thing. I don't. It's the only one I think I learned from his books that stuck with me, and Malcolm Gladwellism. But it really is true. If you spend enough time at anything, you can become good, musician, whatever.
So we got
podcasting,
9,870 more hours before we get good at the podcasting thing. Is that the?
I wouldn't have said that out loud, but put that out there.
I like to put my insecurities out there in the world for everybody to hear. So outside of books, writing, obviously big into that. I guess what are you into? What are your hobbies outside of books? Like what are you
outside?
Yeah. Like what do you like to?
He just said it takes 10,000 hours.
No, I didn't mean to do. I mean, like, what do you enjoy as far as like movies and music, all that kind of stuff?
Backstreet Boys. We've already covered that.
There we go.
I'm kind of excited for the Spice Girls reunion, but that is not coming stateside yet. I'm a little disappointed. I saw them many years ago, but without Ginger, so I really don't.
You can get by without Posh, but you really need Ginger.
I know.
He left for a while. Remember,
it's like
AJ got kind of kicked out for a while.
Kevin leaves for a while too, but he's back on.
It was Kevin that left.
Kevin, yeah.
He was mad at AJ.
But then he made a surprise appearance at one of their LA concerts because I saw it on YouTube and the crowd went wild.
Oh, yeah. So I like a lot of music. I drink a lot of coffee. Music. I don't know, is coffee a hobby?
Yeah, that can be. Anything that you take.
I listen to a ton of podcasts. My iPhone is just stacked with podcasts. There's a couple times that I've had so many where I'm like, I'm just going to declare podcast bankruptcy.
Because you see, like,
delete them all.
When you go next, or it's like, would you like to play the next, 68 podcasts? And you're like, okay, yeah.
I know. I think, you get to a point where there's just so many on there. But yeah, no, I love listening.
But if you're listening, don't delete this one.
Yes, please.
Because it's where you can have an actual conversation with someone. It's not a 280 character soundbite on Twitter or something you've pulled out of context on Facebook. It's like an actual conversation. So
it's been interesting for us trying to push that out to our audience because we have a lot of people who maybe just don't know about podcasts. So they'll follow the website.
Restricted as far as our stories have to be, like 90 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Done. And it's so hard to tell a story in 90 seconds. And there's so many things you wish you could say or wish you could have included to paint a better picture of what was going on. But that's what I love about podcasts.
Yeah. It's just a long form. And I see it becoming more and more important in our culture where people go, I'm tired of the sound bites and I just want to unplug and I just want to get back to, being able to read a book in full. There's a lot of people that say, I don't have time to read books. And again, that's another reason I cut those extra 5,000 words out of my book because it gives, you finish this book a lot faster.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He was telling me they've been out to Miguel's Pizza.
Oh yeah, okay. We go out to Natural Bridge. We go out to Natural Bridge a lot.
She gets aggravated with me talking about food.
We're not like the climbing the rocks type people, but we are like the hiking and the trails and all that kind of stuff.
Hike up to the top of the bridge. It takes about an hour. It's nice.
Yeah, if you hike to the bridge and back down, you've burned off enough calories for one slice of Miguel's pizza.
Exactly.
And if it's calorie counting when you're out there can be tough.
All right. Well, if somebody's listening to this and they want to check out the book, I guess the easiest place, especially. Well, this will come out after.
No, but the Carnegie Center.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. I teach classes at the Carnegie Center. You can find those out online. So, at the Carnegie Center, I usually say just if you Google my name and you spell it right, everything's on my website: tour dates, books. Carnegie Center mentoring and stuff at Andrew Shaffer, SHAFFER.com.
Books available everywhere.
Yeah, and if you don't spell it right, that's the first thing we're going to work on if I mentor you in the program is we're going to work on spelling.
Andrew, any other questions?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I could talk to you all day, so I'll kind of stop myself from asking more.
So we have both literally just started Hope Never Dies, so we'll have to...
in large print from the Jessamine County Public Library, because that was the first one. I had to put it on hold.
It's great. It's a hardback copy, the large print one. Yeah, I got a copy of that, too.
So once we finish both books, we'll have to hit you back up and, we'll catch you next time you're in town, and we'll just do a deep dive.
The next time I'll see you guys is at this concert, probably.
Concert.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah. I guess we'll...
We're getting beers at the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they serve that at those now? I guess now they're not.
The audience, the audience has aged. It's gone from being teenage girls to middle-aged women. Us.
A little word of advice, though. It gets a little rowdy at the Backstreet Boys concerts. The last one I went to, it was almost like a Magic Mike show. Like, the crowd was insane for them.
Performers?
No, a little bit of both. And they would kind of play into it, kind of like a little, they're a little risque now on stage.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Like, you want it that way, they will show you what way they want it.
Oh, that's very exciting. All right. Well, on that note, thank you all for listening. And, SHAFFER.
Backstreetboys.com.
Backstreetboys.com. Yep, you can find out that. You can catch us all at the concert.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Well, Victor, what did you think?
I thought that went pretty well. No, I like that. Give you a moment to take control.
There you go.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, it was really fun meeting him. I think once we have both finished the books, we'll talk about it on here. And that was exciting. It's always neat to meet people who are local but doing kind of global things. And, these books on the New York Times bestsellers list, they're obviously...
Can you imagine being on the New York Times bestseller list?
I can imagine a lot of things.
Do you think the odds, like they always talk about the odds of you having a kid be a pro football player are so odd. Like, this has to be even smaller chances, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you list, the list of people who've been on the New York Times bestseller list, I'm sure it's a pretty small,
short.
Pretty short one.
Yeah.
So there we go. You all let us know. Let us know what you think of the books. Like I said, we'll be reading them and
go into it with a good attitude. You know what I mean? Don't take it too seriously. Like like we said in the podcast, like you got to learn to laugh a little bit.
Yeah.
Life is too short to get so torn up about things.
And people do but one of the things he talked to me about was that, because I'd also interviewed him for our news story that aired before this one. And so that's online already. You can find my interview with him as far as that story. One of the things he said that people actually, I don't know if I even used this because the story ended up going kind of long, but one of the things he said that sometimes he was in New York and he's talking about his writing, and somebody from New York said, "Oh, you're so brave to do what you do from there." And he told them, "Have you ever been to Kentucky?" Because most people don't care that much about politics. Like, we talk about bourbon and horses and basketball, like those are all things that people,
Well, I'll be honest, when I was in Ireland, they're really big into American politics there.
Really?
I had a lot of people asking me about it, and every time I said I was from Kentucky, they're like, "Oh, you must love Trump." And I was like, that's not necessarily true. And not going to say which way I lean at all, but it was just interesting that they even
people just make assumptions.
But the fact that in Ireland they knew Kentucky leans right.
Well,
was bizarre to me. I'm like, how do you know that?
Well, it is weird because you think about how Kentucky is politically on the national stage a lot. We got Mitch McConnell,
that's true,
leader of the Senate. Rand Paul makes the news a lot. I mean, so
our biggest figures are
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing. So Kentucky politicians tend to make the news a lot, and you think about you pick a random state other than some of the bigger ones like New York and California. Yeah, those people are on the national stage, but how many other relatively smaller population-wise states get that much attention?
You're right. So I guess it makes more sense when you put it that way. I don't know why I didn't make that connection, but it just still fascinated me. I know nothing about politics in Ireland. You know what I mean? So I was just like, wow, I'm impressed.
And you're like, oh, did you pull a sword from a lake? Is that how you became the... I think that was England. Anyway.
What? A sword from a lake?
King Arthur. I mean,
it's the sword in the stone.
The Lady in the Lake. Well, Sword in the Stone is the Disney version.
That's not real?
None of it's real.
I'm kidding.
No, you're not.
Okay.
Okay. So, Andrea, do you have a favorite thing this week?
Well, I think I'm going to do something a little controversial.
Oh, my goodness.
My favorite thing is the cartoon version of Lion King.
So you're not down with the live action?
Well, it was beautiful. I will say it was beautiful.
Oh, did you go see it?
Yeah, I saw it. I donated blood so I could get 2 free tickets to the movies. So okay. I got to go for free. Saving money, people.
Yep,
saving money.
That's great.
But it's not that the new one wasn't good. I thought it was really good, but I went into it biased, obviously. That came out in like my prime kid years. So Lion King meant a lot to me as a child. I loved that movie. The music was so good. Gotta say that the original music I thought was better. it was more musical theater, you know what I mean? And it just fit the Disney thing, I think.
One of the things I heard in the reviews was that the new version, they don't sing the songs fully. Is that right?
Okay, Be Prepared, Scar's song, which was like my favorite movie. They butchered it. I'm sorry. The rest of them were fine, but they butchered that one. And that was my favorite. Now, Scar had a better backstory. I'll say that. Like, you understood Scar better after seeing the live action. Like, the story kind of made more sense. And it could just be that I'm older and understand things more now. So it's been a while since I revisited the cartoon version. But I'll say I cried more in the cartoon when Mufasa died than in the real one.
Spoilers. But you were also...
I think we're safe.
You were also a child at the time.
And I think... And do not get me wrong here. I love Beyonce. But it was weird having her in that movie just because I'm like, that's Beyonce. It's like, you can't separate Beyonce.
She's such a big presence, that it's hard to...
So I'm like, you're not Nala. That's Beyonce.
That's good. I'm like that. It's like whenever, really famous people take over a role suddenly. Like when Ben Affleck became Batman. You're kind of like... Although I still thought he was great. I liked his stuff a lot. But
yeah, and I'm not saying Beyonce was bad. She wasn't at all. It was just, for me, it was kind of hard to separate the two.
Whereas when Henry Cavill was Superman, he was less well known. So you're able to just see him as...
He's so handsome. I had a crush on him way before he became Superman, because he was on a show called The Tudors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
He's also, have you seen the trailer for Witcher? Mm-mm. The new Netflix series that he's in?
No, is he on it?
I'll show you that when we're done. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So your favorite thing is the original cartoon Lion King.
I know, and I'm not hating. I don't want to be a hater.
You're just saying between the two, go check that one out.
Well, check them both out.
Or if you want to see the original, go check out Kimba, the White Lion, the cartoon.
Oh, are you going to get into that?
I'm not going to completely get into it.
Is it a Japanese cartoon?
Yeah, if you just do a quick search for Kimba, the White Lion, there's been rumblings that, the Lion King was stolen.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that there's some pretty...
There's some similarities.
Yeah.
All right, well, there we go. Well, my favorite thing this week, it's actually two of them. They're both board game related. They're both on Kickstarter. Oh. Two very different games. As of the day this comes out, you've got about 2 weeks to go back them if you want. So if you've never used Kickstarter, it is a thing where people can put up a project. They say, I'd like some amount of money to fund this thing. If you give me money, exactly. If you give me money when it's completed, I will
name it after you.
Yeah. Well, and in the case of the board, it's gotten very big in the board game world because people who may not have the infrastructure or big companies, they can put up their project. People give them money and then they'll ship it out to them. There have been some spectacular failures where they've raised millions of dollars and then somebody just ran off, built a house.
The Fire Festival.
Well, no, I mean in the board game world, people literally like millions.
That's terrible.
There was also a guy who lost his house. He had to sell his house to have enough because he didn't calculate shipping right. So then he had to sell his house to be able to ship out all these games that had been purchased.
So he said, if you donate, I'll send you the game when we can make it.
Yeah.
Oh, honey.
Well, but I mean, at least he followed through. There are some people who just didn't. Like they literally they get a note like, "Sorry, one of the other guys took all the money, and we don't have enough to complete it. You don't get anything."
That is so noble.
And then you've got thousands of people who gave $100 each, and suddenly
would you do that? Would you sell your home to keep your promise?
Heck no! It even says in Kickstarter, it's not a promise of. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get something. You're funding a dream.
We'll do our best. Yeah, I don't know about selling your house now.
But there are, I'll send you a link to the story. It's very interesting.
I respect it.
Look up Glory to Rome Kickstarter. That was the name of the game.
Glory to Rome.
Glory to Rome. And there was a whole article about it, just what a debacle it was.
Wow.
Very good game, though. Probably my favorite game of all time.
Good deal.
So there are two different games, two very, very different ones. The first one is put out by the people who do Cyanide and Happiness. It's a web cartoon. It's called Trial by Trolley, and it's a party game where one person is the train conductor, and the other two people split up into teams. And then there's this train tracks. Have you ever heard of the trolley conundrum? Like you're a trolley and you're going, and you see somebody on the tracks in front of you.
You can't stop.
But there's a diversion. But then the diversion, you see that there's another group of people. So which do you do? Is it more right to
kill one more?
So this game, you have these cards that have people on them, and you put them down on the track, and then they have to choose which one. So it might be like a small child over here, and this one is like a kitten cuddled with a dog. But then people can add like, oh, but there's also a mass murderer on this track, and it's literally one of the cards is Nickelback. You can be like, oh, but Nickelback is on this track.
Oh my gosh!
So
it's famous people or just like something that will elicit a strong reaction.
Yeah, So that's the thing. It's all like One of them says your best friend. Another one says a teenage superhero who will one day save the city.
Oh my God!
And so then you try to figure out which of these people get ran over. So that's called Trial by Trolley, and it's on Kickstarter right now. And
it's dark, but I like it.
It is dark, but it's the fun kind of conversations I think me and my friends would enjoy. So that is on there, and then the other one.
You said that like I'm not a member of that group.
Well, so no, Andrea, I think we would enjoy it a lot.
Something that me and my friends not in.
If I get that game, I'll be sure to play it with you.
Okay.
The other one is also on Kickstarter, and it's called Dinogenics.
Okay.
And it's the second printing of a game that came out that was very popular, but it was really hard to get. And so imagine Jurassic Park, the board game.
Okay.
You lead a corporation.
That was my first thought.
Yes. So you have a pen of dinosaurs, and you've got to feed them. If you get the meat-eating ones, you have to get goats to feed to them. You may be able to hear the lawnmower in the background.
I know. I keep watching.
You keep staring at.
Driving back
It's
and
just
forth.
distracting Andrea. It's like she's watching a tennis match. Just. So yes, Dinogenics. They have an expansion coming out. You can buy that if you want, but you can also just purchase the base game, and it's spelled Dino, Genics.
So these games are trying to raise money, or they've already raised the money?
These games are going to happen regardless.
Okay.
They're very popular, so I mean, it's just a matter of. For some people, it's almost like a pre-order system.
Gotcha.
They just use Kickstarter because Kickstarter is so well known. Like board gamers check it every day. They know that if they put a game on Kickstarter, like Kickstarter gets 10% of the money, but essentially you've got all this free advertisement built in.
It's
because
worth it.
There's a giant audience already.
So it's a shark in Shark Tank.
Yes.
Working with. They're the equivalent of a shark.
It really is. If you think about it like that, like Dinogenics, so far they've raised $228,000. So these games will get made, and Trial by Trolley, I'm sure.
$228,000.
Trial by Trolley has raised $2,035,000. Like I said, that game's going to get made.
Not gonna lie, I really want to play it.
Their previous game, it was kind of panels of a webcomic that you would put together, and I'm trying to see how much that one raised, because it was also a large amount. It was one of the, because the fans of their webcomic would all come in and
a web comic.
Yeah, like a
comic online.
Yeah, think of like Garfield or like a Sunday morning type comic.
But you can only see it online.
But you watch it on, or you look at it online.
I feel like my mother right now.
You've never heard of a webcomic before?
No.
It's just like any of those little cartoons. Not cartoons, but just like a comic that's. Okay, so the previous one, Joking Hazard. Let's see how long. And that one's in Walmart now. You'll see Joking Hazard in Walmart.
It's at the Walmarts.
It is at the Walmarts.
Made it.
And it raised $3,246,000.
Did I show you the picture of Wall Mikes from Alaska?
No.
Pretty sure that Walmart stole this guy's idea.
All right, I'm excited about that. Well, anyway.
Investigative report from Miranda Combs coming soon. Wall Mikes.
So those are my favorite things this week. 2 Kickstarter games that, as of the day this comes out, you'll have about 2 weeks. And you know what? If you listen to this months from now, they're probably available online. Search Amazon, Trial by Trolley, and Dinogenics.
We're playing.
You can also look for the original Lion King wherever videos are sold.
Good luck finding it not on VHS, because that's all that existed back then, kids.
No, I'm sure it's on the streaming. Months from now, you can, if you're listening to this, Disney Plus is out, and you can watch it on Disney Plus.
Hey.
While you're watching Avengers Endgame.
You can't do both at the same time.
Probably not. All right, everybody.
Not well.
Thanks for listening to our rambling this week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.